So a couple winters ago, four friends rented a cabin up in the Plumas National Forest in California. They went up for a long weekend. Three of them came back. One of them came back wrong. And the thing they kept saying afterwards, the thing that none of them could explain to the sheriff, or to their parents, or to each other, was that they had not been alone up there. They said it like that. Not we heard noises. Not we got spooked. They said, we were not alone in that cabin. I'm going to tell you what happened to them. And then I'm going to tell you what happened in those same woods in 1978. Because I think the two things are the same story. I think they always were. Okay, here we go. The friend who told me this is a guy named Tyler. I've known him since we were kids. He's not a believer in anything. He works in insurance, he watches football, he thinks ghost shows are stupid. So when he sat down at my kitchen table last March and told me he hadn't slept properly in 8 weeks, I listened. Tyler had a buddy named Marcus from college. Marcus was getting married in the spring and wanted to do a bachelor weekend, but a quiet one. No Vegas, no strippers, just 4 guys, a cabin, some whiskey, and the woods. Marcus found a place online, a 2-bedroom A-frame about 40 minutes north of Oroville, off a Forest Service road, sleep 6 wood stove, no cell service, $200 a night. The listing had 3 photos and a review from 2019. Tyler said the price was the thing that got them, $200 for a whole cabin. Marcus booked it. The 4 of them were Marcus, Tyler, a guy named Devin who Tyler knew from work, and Marcus's brother whose name was Cole. Cole was the youngest, 24, quiet, the kind of guy who shows up to a bachelor weekend with his own thermos of tea. Tyler liked him. They drove up on a Friday in February, 2 cars, Tyler and Devin in one, Marcus and Cole in the other. The forecast said snow but not much, 6 inches maybe, and the cabin had a wood stove and plenty of firewood according to the listing. They stopped in Oroville for groceries and beer. Tyler said the guy at the checkout counter asked them where they were headed, and when they told him, he kind of paused. Didn't say anything, just rang up the beer. That was the first thing. The drive-in was longer than the GPS said it would be. The forest road wasn't really a road by the end of it. It was 2 roots of snow with trees scraping both sides of the car. They got there a little after 4 in the afternoon. The light was already going. February light up there dies fast. The cabin was exactly what the photos showed. A frame, dark wood, tin roof, a covered porch with a single chair on it. No other cabins anywhere. Tyler said when he got out of the car and his boots hit the snow, the first thing he noticed was how loud his own breathing was. That kind of quiet. The key was in a lockbox by the door. Code worked. Inside, it was warm, which surprised them. Marcus said the owner must have come up earlier to start the stove for them. There was a little note on the kitchen counter, handwritten. It said, "Welcome. Firewood on the porch. Water from the tap is fine. Please do not go past the rope behind the cabin." Signed with just an initial R. The 4 of them stood in the kitchen and read the note and laughed. Don't go past the rope. Okay, sure. Maybe there's a septic tank or something. Maybe a well. They didn't think about it again that night. They cooked. They drank. Cole made everyone tea before bed because he's that kind of guy. Marcus and Cole took the upstairs loft. Tyler and Devin took the downstairs bedroom. Around midnight, they all turned in. Tyler said he fell asleep fast. The drive had wiped him out. He woke up at 3:14 in the morning. He knows the exact time because he checked his watch. He woke up because someone was standing at the foot of his bed. Now here's the thing. Tyler is not a guy who imagines things. He's also not a guy who panics. He said his first thought wasn't fear, it was confusion. Because the shape at the foot of his bed was Cole. Just Cole, in his pajamas, standing there looking down at him. Tyler said, "Cole, you all right, man?" Cole didn't answer. Tyler sat up a little and said it again. "Cole, hey." And Cole turned slowly and walked out of the bedroom. Didn't say a word. Tyler watched him walk down the little hallway toward the kitchen. He heard the back door of the cabin open. He heard it close. Tyler got up. Devin was asleep in the other bed, snoring. Tyler went to the kitchen, looked out the window over the sink. He could see the back porch in the moonlight. There were no footprints in the snow. None. The snow back there was perfect, smooth, untouched. Tyler stood at that window for a long time. He said the moonlight was bright enough that he could see the tree line at the back of the property. He scanned it. He was looking for movement. He didn't see any. He said, the woods looked like a photograph. Completely still. The kind of still you don't get in real life because real life always has wind in it somewhere. But this was just frozen. Then he went upstairs. Cole was in his bed, fast asleep. Marcus was asleep on the other side of the loft. Tyler stood at the top of the stairs and looked at Cole for probably a minute. Cole didn't move. He was breathing slow, the way people breathe when they're really under. Tyler went back downstairs. He didn't sleep again that night. He told himself he'd had a dream that felt real. That happens. It's called a hypnopompic hallucination. He looked it up later, where you're partway awake and your brain shows you something that isn't there. He'd had one before, in college, after a bad night. He decided not to mention it in the morning. Saturday was fine. Saturday was actually great. They went out and walked a trail that started behind the cabin. There was a wooden sign at the trailhead that just said, Loop 2.4 miles. No name on the loop. They walked it, came back, made a big breakfast, drank coffee on the porch. The snow had picked up a little, but nothing serious. Marcus and Cole went out and chopped some extra firewood even though there was already a pile. Devin read a paperback. Tyler tried to nap and couldn't, but he didn't say why. One thing happened on that hike that Tyler didn't think about until later. About a mile in, the trail crossed a little creek on a wooden footbridge. On the railing of the footbridge, somebody had carved initials. Not initials in a heart, like teenagers do. Just 5 sets of initials in a row. TWJM, BSJHGM. The carvings were old, weathered. Tyler ran his thumb over them and said something like, some hikers, I guess, and they kept walking. Cole stopped at the bridge for a second longer than everybody else. Marcus had to call back to him to keep up. The other thing, and Tyler said this is the part he keeps coming back to, is that during the hike, Cole asked a weird question. They were maybe halfway around the loop. Cole was walking next to Tyler, and out of nowhere he said, how long can a person walk in this kind of cold before they die? Tyler said, I don't know, man. Depends on what they're wearing. Cole said, say they're wearing what we're wearing right now. Tyler said, probably a few hours. Less if they're wet. Cole nodded, like he was filing it away. And then he said, how far do you think a person could get in a few hours? Tyler said, on foot, out here, maybe 10 miles. Maybe more if they were running. Cole said, 19? Tyler said, 19 what? And Cole said, nothing, sorry, I was just thinking. They kept walking. Tyler put it out of his head. People say weird stuff on hikes. He let it go. In the afternoon, around 2, Devin was out on the porch and he called the rest of them over. He said, hey, come look at this. There was a deer on the edge of the clearing in front of the cabin, a mule deer doe standing maybe 50 feet away, just looking at the cabin, not eating, not moving. Marcus said something like, cool, a deer. And he started to step off the porch to take a picture with his phone. The deer didn't move when he stepped down. Marcus got within about 20 feet of it before it bolted, and Tyler said when it bolted, it didn't run away from Marcus. It ran sideways, like something else had spooked it from a different direction. They all stood there for a second. Then they went back inside. Tyler said that was the moment the cabin started to feel different. He couldn't tell you why. It was a deer. Deer get curious sometimes. But after that afternoon, every time he looked out a window, he felt like he was being looked back at. He didn't say anything. Saturday night they cooked steaks and got drunk. Marcus did a long emotional toast about getting married. Cole cried a little, which surprised everybody. Devin told a story about Marcus from college that I don't need to get into. It was a good night, a normal bachelor weekend night. Around 11, they were all on the couches in the main room, and Cole said, did you guys hear that? Nobody had heard anything. Cole said, like a baby crying, outside. Marcus laughed and said it was probably a coyote or a mountain lion. Mountain lions sound like scream baby sometimes. He'd seen it on a podcast. Cole said no, it sounded like a person. A small person. They all listened for a while. Nothing came back. Marcus poured Cole another drink and they moved on. But Cole kept looking at the window above the kitchen sink, the one Tyler had stood at the night before. Tyler watched Cole look at it. Cole was not laughing or smiling. He was just looking at that window like he expected something to be in it. Tyler said, hey Cole, you good? Cole said, yeah. And he turned away from the window. They went to bed around 1. Tyler said, He made himself lie down and close his eyes and tell himself nothing was going to happen. He was a 31-year-old man at a bachelor weekend. He was being ridiculous. He fell asleep around 2. He woke up at 3:14. I want to be careful how I say this. Tyler is precise about the time because he checked his watch both nights, and both nights it was 3:14. He didn't think anything of it the first night. The second night he did. Tyler woke up because he heard the back door of the cabin open. He laid there, he listened. He heard the back door close, soft, almost polite. Then he heard footsteps walk through the kitchen, past the bedroom door, down the little hallway, and stop. Then they came back. Then they stopped again. Then they came back. Whoever was walking around in the cabin was walking the same little loop. Back door, kitchen, hallway, kitchen, back door. Over and over, Tyler whispered to Devin. Devin was still snoring. Tyler reached over and shook him. Devin woke up confused, and Tyler put a finger to his lips and said, "Listen." They listened together. The footsteps were still going. Back door, kitchen, hallway. Back door, kitchen, hallway. Devin mouthed, "Cole?" Tyler didn't answer, because the footsteps were heavier than Cole. Cole was a small guy. The two of them got out of bed. Devin grabbed his phone for the flashlight. They opened the bedroom door slowly. The hallway was empty. The footsteps had stopped the second they opened the door. They went into the kitchen. Nobody there. They checked the back door. It was locked. From the inside, the little chain was on. They went upstairs. Marcus and Cole were both asleep. Tyler said Cole was sleeping in the exact same position as the night before, on his back, breathing slow. Marcus was on his stomach with his arm hanging off the bed. Devin went back downstairs and sat on the couch and didn't say anything for a long time. Tyler sat with him. Finally, Devin said, "Dude, what the hell was that?" Tyler said, "I don't know." Devin said, "Did you do the same thing last night?" Tyler told him about the figure at the foot of the bed, about thinking it was Cole, about the snow with no footprints. Devin sat there. Then he said, "Tyler, I want to leave." Tyler said, "It's 3 in the morning, it's snowing. We can't drive that road in the dark." Devin said, "Then I want to leave at first light." Tyler said, "Okay." They sat on the couch with the lights on for the next 4 hours. Neither of them slept. Around 6, the sky started to gray, and Tyler made coffee. Devin stared at the back door the whole time. At one point, around 5 in the morning, Devin said very quietly, "Tyler, I have to tell you something." Tyler said, "Okay." Devin said, "When we walked out into the kitchen earlier, when the footsteps stopped, I felt somebody behind me, standing right behind me, so close I could feel them on my neck, and when I turned around, nobody was there. But Tyler, the air in that spot was warm." Tyler said warm. Devin said like a person had just been standing there, like body heat, in a cabin that we've been letting get cold for hours. Tyler didn't have an answer for that. He still doesn't. They didn't talk for a while after that. Devin finished his coffee. The sky kept getting lighter. Around 7, Tyler heard footsteps upstairs, and his whole body went stiff. But it was just Marcus getting out of bed. Marcus and Cole came down around 8. Marcus saw the two of them on the couch and laughed and said, "You guys look like garbage." Tyler told them what had happened. He told it flat, no drama, just what he heard. Devin backed him up. Marcus's face did this thing. He didn't laugh. He looked at his brother, and his brother Cole was just standing there at the bottom of the stairs holding his thermos, not reacting at all, just listening. Marcus said, "Okay, we can pack up. We've had a good weekend. Let's just pack up and head home a day early." That's when Cole spoke. He said, "I don't want to leave yet." Marcus said, "What?" Cole said, "I don't want to leave yet. I like it here." And that was the thing that put a knot in Tyler's stomach, because Cole said it in a tone of voice that Tyler had never heard Cole use before, flat, final, like he was telling them the sky was blue. Marcus said, "Cole, buddy, we're going." Cole said, "You can go. I'll stay." Devin said, "Cole, we're not leaving you here." Cole shrugged. "I want you to picture this. You're in a cabin in the woods, 40 minutes from any other person. You've been hearing things that should not be happening. And the youngest guy in your group, your best friend's little brother, is telling you he's not coming home." Marcus walked over and put his hands on Cole's shoulders and looked at him. Tyler said Marcus held him there for like 10 seconds. And then Cole sort of blinked like coming out of something. And "Sorry, what were we talking about?" Marcus said, "We're packing up. We're going home." Cole said, "Okay, Yeah, let's go home. He didn't remember the last 30 seconds. Tyler is sure of that. Cole had no idea what he'd just said. They packed fast, threw everything in the cars, Tyler said. He kept thinking about that note on the counter, about the rope behind the cabin. He looked out the back window once before they left, and he could see it from there. A red nylon rope strung between two trees. It looked old, faded. He couldn't see what was past it. He didn't go look. They locked up, put the key back in the lockbox, got in the cars, pulled out. The drive down the forest road took about 30 minutes. Tyler was in the lead car with Devin. Marcus and Cole were behind them. About halfway down, Tyler looked in his rearview mirror and Marcus's car wasn't there. He'd lost sight of them. Tyler pulled over. 2 minutes. 3 minutes. He was about to turn around and go back when Marcus's headlights came around the bend. Marcus pulled up next to him and rolled down his window. Marcus looked rough, pale. Tyler said, "You good?" Marcus said, "Cole made me stop the car." Tyler said, "What for?" Marcus said he thought he saw somebody in the woods. Tyler looked past Marcus into the passenger seat. Cole was just sitting there, staring straight ahead. Tyler said, "Did you see anybody?" Marcus said no. Then Marcus said something Tyler still thinks about. He said, "Tyler, Cole made me stop and roll down the window, and then he sat there with the window down for like a full minute, just listening. And then he said, 'Okay, we can keep going.' And we kept going. And I asked him what he heard, and he said he doesn't know what I'm talking about." Tyler said, "Marks, let's just get to the highway." They got to the highway. They drove home. The whole way home, Tyler said, he kept checking his rear view to make sure Marcus's car was still there. Devin didn't speak for about 2 hours. He just stared out the passenger window. Around Sacramento, he finally said, "Tyler, what's the chain on a back door for?" Tyler said, "What?" Devin said, "The chain on the back door of the cabin. We checked it. It was on, from the inside." Tyler said, "Yeah." Devin said, "We never put it on." Tyler thought about that. He realized Devin was right. None of them had touched that chain the whole weekend. It had been off when they got there, and at 3 in the morning when they checked, it was on. Tyler said, "Maybe Marcus or Cole did it." Devin said maybe. But Devin didn't sound like he believed it, and neither did Tyler. They drove the rest of the way mostly in silence. So they got home Sunday night. Everybody went their separate ways. Tyler went home and slept for 14 hours. He woke up Monday afternoon to a text from Marcus. The text said, "Did anything weird happen in your car on the way home?" Tyler wrote back, "No." "Why?" Marcus wrote back, "Cole's been in the bathroom for like 4 hours and he won't come out." Tyler said his stomach dropped when he read that. He drove over to Marcus's place. Marcus and Cole had been crashing together at their parents' house. For the weekend, parents were out of town. Tyler got there, and Marcus let him in and led him upstairs. The bathroom door was closed. Tyler could hear the shower running. Marcus said, "It's been on for 4 hours. He's not answering me." Tyler knocked on the door. He said, "Cole, it's Tyler. Open up." Nothing. Tyler said, "Cole, I'm going to come in if you don't answer." A few seconds passed. Then Cole's voice came through the door. Calm. Normal. He said, "I'll be out in a minute. I'm fine." Tyler and Marcus stood in the hallway. 20 minutes later, the shower turned off. 5 minutes after that, Cole came out in a towel, walked past them like they weren't there, went to his room, and closed the door. Marcus said, "He's been like this since we got back." Tyler said, "Like what?" Marcus said, "Just not here." They sat downstairs for a while. Marcus told Tyler that on Sunday night, after they got home, Cole had asked him a strange question. He'd asked Marcus, "Did we leave anybody up there?" Marcus had said, "What do you mean?" Cole had said, "At the cabin." "Did we leave anybody up there?" Marcus had said, "No, of course not. There were only 4 of us." And Cole had nodded like that was an acceptable answer, but not a satisfying one. And then Cole had said, "Are you sure?" Marcus had said yes. Cole had gone to bed. Tyler sat at Marcus's parents' kitchen table and tried to think. He kept thinking about the figure he saw at the foot of his bed. He kept thinking about how it had looked like Cole. He said to Marcus, "Hey, I want to ask you something and I don't want you to think I'm crazy." Marcus said, "Okay." Tyler said, "Is it possible that Cole did something up there that we don't know about?" Marcus said, "Like what?" Tyler said, "I don't know. Like maybe he went outside one of the nights and we didn't see him." Marcus thought about it. Then he said, "Tyler, the first morning, When I woke up, Cole wasn't in the bed. Tyler said, "What?" Marcus said, "I woke up around 6. Cole wasn't there. His bed was empty. I assumed he was downstairs. I went down and he wasn't there either. Then I went back up to check the bathroom and he was just walking out of it. He said he'd been up for an hour. But Tyler, his hair was wet. And there was dirt on his feet." Tyler said, "Dirt?" Marcus said, "Pine needles. Like he'd been outside." Tyler said, "Why didn't you say anything?" Marcus said, "Because we were having a good time. And I told myself he probably just stepped out on the porch." Tyler said, "Marcus, the porch had snow on it. It didn't have pine needles." Marcus didn't say anything. They sat there in the kitchen for a long time. That's when Tyler decided to start looking into the cabin. He went home that night and pulled up the listing. It was still there. The same 3 photos, the same review from 2019. The owner was just listed as R. Hendricks. Tyler messaged the listing, asked about the property's history, asked if there had ever been any incidents on the land. R. Hendricks wrote back about an hour later. The message was 3 words. It said, "Please do not. That's all. Just please do not." Tyler said he stared at that message for 10 minutes. He wrote back, "Do not what?" R. Hendricks did not reply. He wrote back the next day, still no reply. 3 days later, the listing was gone. Just taken down, the whole thing. The cabin wasn't on the site anymore. So Tyler started looking at maps. He pulled up the area on Google Earth. He found the road they'd driven in on. He traced it from the highway to where he was pretty sure the cabin was. He zoomed in on the satellite view. And what he saw is what made him drive to my house and tell me this whole story. In the woods behind the cabin, past where the rope would be, there was a clearing, and in the middle of that clearing, there was a small structure, square, just a square in the snow. He couldn't tell what it was. It could have been a shed, a tool shed, but Tyler had a feeling. He measured the distance from the cabin to that structure using the little ruler tool on Google Earth. It was about 120 feet. Not far. Easy walking distance for somebody who knew the property. Easy walking distance for somebody who wanted to walk out there in the middle of the night. He also noticed something else. The clearing the structure sat in wasn't natural. The trees around it were too even. Whoever had cleared that ground had done it deliberately, and a long time ago, because the new growth around the edges was already maybe 30-40 years old. So Tyler started searching for the area. Plumas National Forest, suspicious deaths, missing persons. He typed in different combinations. He scrolled past hiking forums, past hunting reports, past a lot of stuff that didn't help. He kept going. He sat at his kitchen table until 2 in the morning the next night, just clicking through pages. And about 4 search pages deep on some local Yuba County history blog, he found a name, Ted Weiher. And under that name, a story from 1978 that nobody can explain. He read the whole thing. Then he closed his laptop. Then he picked up his phone and texted me and asked if he could come over. So Tyler sat at his kitchen table at 2 in the morning and read about a case from 1978. And the more he read, the colder he got. Here's what happened. February 24th, 1978. 5 young men from Yuba City, California. Ted Weiher, 32. Jack Madruga, 30. Bill Sterling, 29, Gary Mathias, 25, Jackie Hewitt, 24. They all knew each other from a vocational program. They played on a basketball team together called the Gateway Gators. All 5 had mild intellectual disabilities. They lived at home, most of them, but they were independent. They drove, they had jobs, they had a routine. That night, the 5 of them piled into Jack Madruga's Mercury Montego and drove 50 miles north to Chico to watch a college basketball game. UC Davis versus Chico State. They watched the game. After the game, they stopped at a convenience store for snacks. They were seen on camera. They were laughing. They looked fine. They were supposed to drive straight home. They had a basketball tournament the next morning. A Special Olympics tournament. The winning team got a free trip to Los Angeles. They had been talking about it for weeks. They never came home. The next morning, their families called the police. The car was missing. The men were missing. The basketball uniforms were still in their closets. 4 days later, a forest ranger found the Mercury Montego, not on the route home, not anywhere near the route home. The car was sitting on a logging road inside Plumas National Forest, about 70 miles east of Chico, up in the Sierra Nevada mountains, in deep snow at 5,000 feet of elevation. There was no reason for them to be up there. None of them had ever been to Plumas National Forest. None of them liked camping. 2 of them were afraid of the woods. The car had a quarter tank of gas left. It started up fine when the ranger tried the key. There was no damage. The doors were unlocked. There were no signs of struggle. There was a road map on the passenger seat. Folded, the car was parked neatly, not stuck in a ditch, not crashed into a tree. Parked, as if they had decided this was their stop. The 5 men were gone. The snow was too deep for the search teams to go very far that February. They sent helicopters. They sent dogs. They couldn't find anything. The snow kept coming down. Eventually, they had to call it off until the thaw. The thaw came in June. On June 4th, 1978, 2 motorcyclists were riding trails in the Plumas National Forest, about 20 miles north of where the Mercury Montego had been parked. They came across a small U.S. Forest Service trailer in a clearing. It was used as a base for summer crews. In winter, it was supposed to be empty. The trailer had a smell coming from it. The window by the door was broken. The bikers looked through it. They saw what was inside. They rode out and called the sheriff. The sheriff's department came up. They went into the trailer, and what they found in there is the part I want you to sit with. Ted Weiher's body was on one of the bunks. He was wrapped in 8 bed sheets, wrapped like somebody had tucked him in. His hands were folded on his chest. His pants were rolled up to his knees. His shoes were gone. His feet were black with frostbite. 3 toes were missing on one foot, 2 on the other. He had a full beard. Now Ted had been clean-shaven the night he disappeared in February. The coroner estimated, based on the beard, that Ted had been alive in that trailer for somewhere between 8 and 13 weeks before he died. 2 to 3 months, alive, in that trailer, by himself. And here's the part. The trailer had heat, propane, worked fine. Ted never turned it on. The trailer had matches. The trailer had wood for a fire. Ted never lit one. The trailer had food. A whole pantry of canned food. 12 months of rations. He ate 1 can. 1. Out of the whole pantry. He starved to death surrounded by enough food to last a year. Outside the trailer, about 100 yards away, there were paperback books. Forest Service paperbacks from inside the trailer. They were scattered in the snow. They had been used to mark a path, like breadcrumbs, leading away from the trailer into the woods. Following those breadcrumbs led the searchers about a quarter mile into the trees, where they found what was left of Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling. They had laid down in the snow together. They were just bones by June. Animals had been at them. They had walked 19 miles from the car to that spot in February in their light clothes, in 2 feet of snow, at night. When investigators reconstructed the path, they realized the men had walked past at least 1 occupied cabin on their way. There were lights on. There was smoke coming from the chimney. People inside. The 5 of them walked right past it. They didn't knock. They didn't yell. They didn't even slow down. They kept walking up the mountain. A few days later, they found Jackie Hewitt, or what was left of him, his spine and skull. Animals had taken the rest. He was a little further out. They never found Gary Mathias. The Forest Service ran a search for Gary that lasted into the fall of 1978. They covered hundreds of square miles. They had dogs. They had helicopters. They had volunteer crews. They found nothing. No remains. No clothing. No trace. His mother lived until 2018. She kept a bag packed by the front door for 40 years in case somebody called and said they'd found him. She wanted to be ready to drive there immediately. She left specific instructions in her will that if Gary was ever found, even just bones, she was to be buried next to him. He has not been found. But here's what they found in the trailer that nobody can explain. On the table next to where Ted Weiher was wrapped up in those 8 sheets, there was a man's wristwatch, a gold watch. It didn't belong to Ted. It didn't belong to any of the other 4. The serial number didn't match any watch any of their families recognized. Nobody has ever figured out whose watch it was. There was also a pair of tennis shoes in the trailer. Gary Mathias's tennis shoes, found neatly placed by the door. Ted's shoes were never found. The theory the sheriff's department settled on was that Gary Mathias took Ted's shoes because they were better in snow and walked off to look for help, and then never made it. That's the theory. But it doesn't explain the watch. It doesn't explain why Ted didn't light the stove. It doesn't explain why a man who was wrapped up in 8 sheets, who was being kept alive by someone, would suddenly be left to starve because somebody wrapped him in those sheets, you understand? Somebody took care of him, and then that somebody stopped. It doesn't explain why 5 men drove 70 miles in the wrong direction up a mountain road in the middle of the night and parked. A local guy named Joseph Shans came forward a few days into the search. He said he'd been driving up that same logging road the night the men disappeared. His car got stuck in the snow. He spent the night in it, and he said sometime in the early morning hours, he saw headlights pull up behind him. He saw a group of people get out of a car. He said he could see them in his side mirror. He said one of them, a woman, was carrying a baby. He said he yelled out for help. He honked his horn. He flashed his lights. He said when he yelled, the group went silent. They didn't approach him. They didn't say anything. They just stood there in the road behind him, and then they walked off into the woods. A woman with a baby, with the Yuba County Five, who had no women and no babies with them. Shans was an older man. He had had a mild heart attack while he was stuck in his car. He was on medication. The sheriff's department was polite about his statement, but they didn't put much weight on it. There were no women reported missing in the area. No babies. The men's family said it didn't make any sense. Joseph Shans told that story until he died. He told it the same way every time. He told it on his deathbed in 1992 to one of his sons. He said the woman wasn't moving like a normal person. He said her arms were too long. He said the thing she was carrying wasn't a baby. It was the right size and the right shape, but it wasn't a baby. That detail never made it into the official report. The sheriff's department never knew what to do with any of it. And the families of the 5 men have spent 47 years asking the same questions. Why did the car go the wrong direction? Why did they park it neatly on a logging road? Why did they get out and walk 19 miles through deep snow in light clothing instead of staying with the car? Why didn't they turn the heater on when they reached the trailer? Why didn't they eat the food? Who wrapped Ted Weiher in 8 sheets? Who took care of him? Who left him there? Whose watch was on the table? Nobody knows. Nobody has ever known. That's what Tyler read about at 2 in the morning. He read 3 or 4 different write-ups of the case. He read the Wikipedia page. He read a long-form article from a magazine that interviewed the surviving family members. He watched a YouTube video about it. Every source said the same things. 5 men, wrong direction up a mountain, car parked neatly, 19 miles on foot through deep snow, trailer full of food they wouldn't eat, heater they wouldn't turn on, sheets, frostbite, the watch. He kept landing on the watch. He pulled up a photo of it, the original 1978 photo, from the police evidence file. He stared at it. He said when he stared at it, he felt the same feeling he'd had standing at the kitchen window in the cabin, the feeling of being looked back at. Tyler closed his laptop. He sat there for a while. Then he picked up his phone and texted me. He said, "Hey, can I come over tomorrow?" He came over the next night, and he sat at my kitchen table, and he told me all of it. The cabin, the footsteps, the chain on the door, the figure at the foot of his bed, Cole asking how far a person could walk in the cold before dying, the carved initials on the footbridge, the structure in the woods behind the cabin on the satellite map. I want to tell you something about Tyler at my kitchen table that night. Tyler is a big guy, 6'2", plays rec league hockey, not the type to get spooked. He was shaking when he talked. His coffee was going cold because his hands weren't steady enough to lift the mug without it sloshing. I sat across from him and I said, "Tyler, the trailer they found Ted Weiher in, it would have been torn down or hauled out decades ago, right?" Tyler said, "I thought so too." He pulled up the satellite image on his phone. He showed me the square in the clearing behind the cabin. He had measured the dimensions. It was about 8 feet by 20 feet, about the size of a Forest Service trailer. I said, "Tyler, come on." He said, "I'm not saying it's the same trailer." I said, "Then what are you saying?" He said, "I'm saying somebody moved it, or somebody built something the same size and shape in the same general area. I'm saying I don't know. I'm saying I want to know." I sat with that, and I asked him about Cole, how Cole was doing. Tyler's face went tight. He said, "Cole is the reason I'm here. This is the part where it gets bad." After the bathroom incident, after Cole came out in a towel and walked past Marcus and Tyler like they weren't there, things at Marcus's parents' house started getting worse. Cole stopped eating. Not in a dramatic way. He'd sit at the table at dinner and he'd push food around his plate and he'd take one bite, maybe two, and then he'd say he was full. Marcus tried to make him eat more. Cole would just stare at him. Marcus told Tyler that one night he tried to give Cole a sandwich, and Cole looked at the sandwich for a long time and then said, "I don't think I'm supposed to eat that." Marcus said, "What are you talking about? Of course you're supposed to eat it." And Cole said, "Okay." And then he called almost nothing, and put the sandwich down and didn't touch it again. Cole stopped sleeping. Marcus could hear him moving around the house at night. Marcus woke up one night around 3 in the morning and went looking for him and found him standing in the kitchen with the back door open. Just standing there, looking out into the backyard, the cold air pouring in. Marcus said, "Cole, what are you doing?" Cole said, "Letting them in." Marcus said, "Letting who in?" Cole said, "The ones outside." Marcus closed the door. Cole let him. Cole went back to his room. There was another night. Marcus told Tyler about this one later. Marcus had gotten up to use the bathroom around 2 in the morning and he heard Cole talking. Marcus stood in the hallway and listened. Cole was in his room. The door was cracked. Cole was talking like he was having a conversation, pausing for an answer, then talking again. Marcus said the worst part was Cole sounded normal, friendly, like he was catching up with somebody he hadn't seen in a while. Marcus pushed the door open. Cole was sitting on the edge of his bed in the dark, facing the corner of the room. Nobody else in there. When Marcus turned the light on, Cole turned and looked at him and said, "Sorry. Did I wake you up?" Marcus said. "Who were you talking to?" Cole said, "Nobody. I was just thinking out loud." Marcus said, "It sounded like a conversation." Cole said, "I know how it sounded." The next morning, Marcus made Cole an appointment with their family doctor. The doctor saw Cole that afternoon. Marcus sat in the waiting room. When Cole came out, the doctor pulled Marcus aside and told him that Cole seemed fine. Vitals were fine. He was a little underweight. He recommended Cole see a psychiatrist as a precaution. Marcus made the psychiatrist appointment for 2 weeks out. That was the earliest he could get. Cole didn't make it 2 weeks. About 4 days after Tyler came to my house, Marcus called him at 2 in the morning. Marcus was crying. Tyler could barely understand him. Tyler told him to slow down. Marcus said, "Cole's gone." Tyler said, "What do you mean, gone?" Marcus said, "His bed's empty. His car's gone. His phone is here. He left his phone on the kitchen counter." Tyler, "He never leaves his phone." Tyler drove to Marcus's parents' house. The parents were home this time. They had flown back when Marcus told them what was going on. They were a wreck. The dad was on the phone with the police. The mom was sitting on the couch, holding one of Cole's sweaters. Tyler walked into the kitchen. Cole's phone was on the counter, face down, exactly where Marcus had said. Tyler picked it up. The screen lit up. The phone wasn't locked. Cole's last text, sent the night before to Marcus, was on the screen. The text said, "I'm sorry, I have to go finish." Marcus came up next to him and looked at the phone. Marcus said, "Finish what?" Tyler said, "Marcus, I think I know where he went. Now I want to be careful here. I'm telling you what Tyler told me." Tyler thinks he knows what happened next. But Tyler wasn't there for the part I'm about to tell you. He's piecing it together from what the sheriff told him afterward, and from what Cole said later, and from what didn't add up. Cole drove from Yuba City up Highway 70 toward Oroville. Then he turned off onto the same Forest Service road they'd driven the month before. Cole's car was a Subaru Forester. It made it pretty far up the road, considering. The road was bad in February, but Cole got within about 3 miles of the cabin before he hit a snowdrift. His car couldn't push through. The sheriff would find the Subaru the next morning, parked neatly, driver's door closed, keys still in the ignition, wallet on the passenger seat, phone, as we know, left at home, quarter tank of gas. The car started right up when the deputy turned the key, the same way the Mercury Montego started up in 1978. From there Cole walked. They tracked his footprints through the snow. He walked off the road and into the trees. He didn't follow the road to the cabin. He cut diagonally through the forest. He walked, the sheriff said, in a remarkably straight line, like he knew exactly where he was going, like he'd been there before, which he had, but not on foot and not in the dark. He walked roughly 3 miles through the trees, in light clothing, in a foot of snow. at 3 in the morning. His blood alcohol came back at 0. He had not taken anything. There was no medical reason for him to be out there. The deputies who found his tracks the next morning said the footprints went in a perfectly straight line for most of the way. No wandering, no stopping. He didn't double back, he didn't sit down to rest, he didn't even pause to figure out which way to go. The lead deputy told Tyler that in his 20 years of search and rescue, he had never seen a person walking lost in the woods make a path like that. Lost people meander, they circle. They follow ridgelines and creek beds. Cole walked like somebody pulling him by a string. The footprints led to the rope behind the cabin, the one the note had told them not to cross. Cole crossed it. Beyond the rope, the prints led into the small clearing Tyler had seen on the satellite image, and in the middle of that clearing, the prints stopped at a door. The structure in the clearing was a trailer, old, maybe from the 70s. It had been painted over a few times, but underneath you could still see the original U.S. Forest Service green. The trailer had no business being there. It wasn't on any property record. The cabin's owner, R. Hendricks, claimed in a brief statement to the sheriff that the trailer had been on the land when he bought the property in 2003. He had never gone in it. He said he'd put the rope up the first year he owned the place and told renters not to cross it because he didn't know if it was structurally safe. The deputies asked Hendricks if he knew anything about the history of the trailer. Hendricks said he didn't. The deputies asked him if he'd ever opened the door. Hendricks said he hadn't. The deputies asked him why not. Hendricks said, "I don't have an answer for that question." The deputies left it alone. Cole opened the door of the trailer and went inside. When the sheriff's deputies found him, about 6 hours later, he was sitting on the floor of the trailer with his back against the wall. He was hypothermic. He was conscious. He was wrapped, from the shoulders down, in old yellowed bedsheets. They counted them later. There were 8. His shoes were sitting by the door of the trailer, neatly placed, toes facing in. His feet were bare. The deputies had to talk to him for several minutes before he responded. He was breathing. His eyes were open. He just wasn't reacting. The lead deputy said, "It was like watching somebody slowly come back from a long distance." When Cole finally focused on them, the first thing he said was, "I'm sorry. I think I came to the wrong one." The deputy said, "The wrong what?" Cole said, "I don't know. They got him out. They got him to the hospital." He didn't speak again for 2 days. Cole spent 2 weeks in the hospital. He lost the tip of his right pinky toe to frostbite. Otherwise, he came back okay physically. Mentally, he doesn't remember any of it. He remembers the bachelor weekend. He remembers driving home. He remembers the bathroom on Monday vaguely, like a dream. After that, he says, things go fuzzy until he woke up in the hospital with Marcus sitting next to him. He doesn't remember driving up to the cabin. He doesn't remember the trailer. He doesn't remember the sheets. The first thing he said when he woke up in the hospital, Marcus told Tyler, was, "Did I make it in time?" Marcus said, "In time for what?" Cole said, "I don't know." He fell back asleep. When he woke up again 6 hours later, he didn't remember saying it. But here's the thing the sheriff told Tyler, and Tyler told me, that I have not been able to shake. When they found Cole in the trailer, he was not alone in there. I mean, physically he was. There was no other person in that trailer. They cleared the whole thing. But on the little built-in table next to where Cole was sitting, there was a watch. A man's gold wristwatch. Old. The kind of watch they don't really make anymore. The deputies bagged it as evidence. They tried to trace it. They asked Cole's parents. They asked Tyler. They asked Marcus. They asked the cabin's owner. Nobody recognized that watch. Nobody had ever seen it before. Nobody could explain how it got there. And it was running. The watch was wound. It was ticking. When they pulled it out of the bag at the station the next morning, it was still keeping time. You tell me when somebody wound that watch. Cole is okay now, as okay as he's going to be. He moved out of his parents' house. He lives with Marcus and Marcus's wife. They got married in the spring like they planned. Cole was the best man. He still doesn't remember anything from those 2 weeks. The doctors call it a dissociative episode, probably triggered by the stress of the weekend and whatever was already going on inside him. They think the carbon monoxide from the cabin's old wood stove may have contributed. The cabin's wood stove was tested afterward. It was fine. No CO leak detected. Tyler asked him once, just once, if he remembered anything at all about the cabin, about the second night, about what made him drive back up there. Cole was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Tyler, I don't want you to ask me that again." Tyler said, "Okay." Cole said, "Not because I'm mad." Tyler said, "Then why?" Cole said, "Because every time I try to remember, I get the feeling that something will know I'm trying, and it'll come back." Tyler didn't ask him about it again. The cabin is gone now, burned down 2 months after Cole came home. The fire started in the wood stove. Nobody was inside. The official cause was a chimney fire, faulty flashing, dry timber. The trailer behind the rope burned with it. Everything on the property went. R. Hendricks did not rebuild. He sold the land to the Forest Service for less than market value. The land was incorporated back into Plumas National Forest. There's nothing there now but trees and the slab of the old cabin foundation. Tyler drove up there once, last fall. He walked the property. He stood where the trailer had been. The slab is gone. The clearing is overgrown. He said he stood in the middle of it for about 10 minutes. He didn't feel anything. No cold spots, no whispers, no breath on his neck, just woods. He walked back to his car. As he was getting in, he said, he looked up at the tree line one more time. About 40 yards off in the trees, there was a deer, a mule deer doe, standing still, looking at him. Tyler got in his car and left. He called Marcus when he got home and told him he'd gone up there. Marcus was quiet for a while. Then Marcus said, "Cole had a bad night last night." Tyler said, "What time?" Marcus said, "Around 3. Tyler didn't say anything. Marcus said he was sleepwalking. He was at the back door. I had to walk him back to bed. He had pine needles on his feet. Marcus said, "Tyler, we don't have any pine trees in the yard. I want to tell you one more thing. When the sheriff's department was processing the trailer where they found Cole, they took photographs of everything inside. Standard procedure. Hundreds of photos. They documented the bunks, the table, the propane stove, the cabinets, the watch, the sheets. About 6 months later, when Tyler was finally allowed to look at the file, the deputy walked him through the photos. He flipped through them on a laptop. Bunks, table, watch, sheets, stove, cabinets. When the deputy got to a certain photo, he stopped. He looked at Tyler. He said, "I'm going to show you this one, and I want you to understand that I have a normal explanation for it, and the normal explanation is the right one." Tyler said, "Okay." The deputy turned the laptop. In the photo, taken of the back wall of the trailer from across the room, you can see Cole sitting on the floor, wrapped in the sheets, head down, eyes closed. Paramedics had not arrived yet. It's just Cole. The photo was taken by the first deputy on scene. In the corner of the photo, behind Cole's shoulder, in the shadow against the wall, there's a shape. The deputy said it's a shadow. He said it's how the flash hit the wood paneling. He said he's looked at it 100 times and he can make it look like anything. A coat hanging on a hook, a trick of the light. He said, "Don't read into it." Tyler said he didn't need the deputy to tell him what it was. He said it was a woman, standing in the back corner of the trailer, holding something against her chest. He asked the deputy if he could have a copy of the photo. The deputy said no, it's evidence in an ongoing case. The case is technically still open because nobody knows how Cole's car got that far up the road without help, and nobody knows whose watch was on the table. Tyler hasn't seen the photo since, but he says he sees it when he closes his eyes. That's the story. Thanks for sitting with me through this one. I appreciate you sticking around. If you've got a story like this, something that happened to you, or somebody you know that you can't quite explain, drop it in the comments. I read them. And hit subscribe if you haven't yet. The next one's already in the works. Take care of yourselves out there. Lock your doors. This was Horror 1949. Good night.